Titanfall 2 was launched in October 2016, and although it has something that we don't find lately in the newly released video games, such as great gameplay, well-crafted and developed relationships between the main characters and a fantastic level design, it did not have the financial or the critical success that it deserved of the time of its release. Since then, people did somewhat realize the value of the game, and the game still has a loyal fanbase, but the question will always remain: what if the launch date would have been more wisely chosen and the marketing would have been better behind this game? It's a painful question for those of us that really like this game, like myself, and although most of the gamers from what I can see really like Apex Legends, a game that started life in development as a sequel to Titanfall 2, I couldn't help but be disappointed when Apex Legends was announced as a replacement to the then supposedly new Titanfall game. Why was Titanfall unsuccessful? Well, let me just read some of the games that came out the same month or the next month in that period. Gears of War 4, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Battlefield 1, a DLC pack for Dark Souls 3 called Ashes of Ariandel? Yeah, Ariandel, I guess, sorry if I butchered that one. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which, yeah, let's not talk about that one. Dishonored 2, Watch Dogs 2, and Final Fantasy 15. As you can see, all of the previously mentioned games have a bigger name recognition and a more established fanbase than a sequel to a game that initially was just a multiplayer-only shooter game that takes place in the distant future. Now, if you're a responsible gamer and buy all your games, look at the upcoming October and November months of that respective year, you see all these titles and you pick up, what, 2, maybe 3 out of the bunch? Because realistically speaking, you can't spend like 400 euros in 2 months only on video games. Some of you might be able to do that, but most of people won't have the possibility or just don't want to spend so much money on video games. So obviously this made Titanfall end up on the bottom of most players' lists. And what a shame that was. Titanfall 2 starts you out as an infantry soldier that due to circumstances gets promoted into the role of a pilot. What is a pilot? Pilots are well-trained, highly skilled individuals that are called in when your average infantry soldier needs some backup or is faced with a mission that is out of his league. Oh, and the pilot also has a giant mech fly down to his position whenever he needs the extra firepower. From here, the storyline is your typical, you have to save the world before bad shit happens to it. It's nothing special, but it does set you up in a great way and puts you in some circumstances and levels that offer unique experiences. I just cannot express how much I admire the level design in this video game. Usually in games, if it's a good one anyway, you get this level that has something unique and that will always come up in dialogues between the fans of a game. Well, for me, it feels like almost every single level in this game is like that. In one of them you jump around like a grasshopper on an assembly lines of buildings that take birth right in front of your eyes. While in another one you use time travel to progress through the level. The levels are great and very different from one another, and that keeps the game fresh, engaging and immersive. Time will fly when you play this game, and just before you know it, poof! It's done. Yes, unfortunately you can finish this game in, like, depending on the difficulty level you choose and your skills, in about 5 to 7 hours. It's way too short, but you know what? I'd rather have quality than quantity. I've said this in the past, I will always choose a short but great game over a drawn out mediocre one. I guess the developers were thinking that most of the players will get the game only for the multiplayer element, but then why would you put in so much effort in making a great but short campaign? I don't know, honestly. I'm grateful though that the game at least offers what it does. Now, talking about the multiplayer, at the time of this recording I can say that the multiplayer community is still alive. I just finished playing a game actually. It's not a greatly populated scene. Mostly the loyal gamers stuck around, but it still is possible to get up, queued up in a game, for example. Beware though. Just like I previously said, these guys are well-trained veteran pilots, and you will get your ass handed to you at the first games if you don't have experience with the game. But time will pass and you will get a groove of the game, so on and so forth. It's a great game to play, and it's just a shame that there's no sequel coming to it, to be honest with you. At the time of this recording, on the Steam charts, the game has an average of around 1,500 players, with a peak of around 2,650 in the last month. But coming back a little bit to the campaign, is it all bad that it's so short? I don't think so. If you're a busy gamer that has real life responsibilities on your hands, and I think it's a great game to just finish in one afternoon. For example, in a Friday afternoon when you finish work and so on and so forth, you can finally have some time for yourself. It gives you a great feeling of accomplishment, and you will not think for 1 second that you have wasted your time or your money with this game. The gameplay still holds up to most of the shooters that came out since. Actually, with very few exceptions, such as Doom Eternal for example, I'd say that the gunplay sounds, feels, and overall gives you a great experience and is well above average and better than most of the shooters out there today. Okay, Roland, but tell us about the mechs! How are the mech fights? Well, I'm happy to announce that the mech control, gunplay and battles are top notch, well put together and intuitive to the player, even if you are not a big fan of mech games. You have a pretty big variety of weaponry on your mech as you progress, and you will not get bored of them. Another thing that the campaign does very well in my humble opinion is the relationship between the characters and how well acted they are. The voice actors were really great, and the relationship between your character and its mech has a natural flow that can produce some deeply emotional moments without them being cheesy, as most of the times can happen in video games or in movies. In conclusion, I will say that Titanfall 2 is definitely still fun to play, offering a unique and well-crafted campaign that will stay in your memories for a good while. I would describe it as a delicious cake that you try out for the first time, and for some reason that you can't figure out, you will always remember the moment you first enjoyed its sweetness. Titanfall 2 is short, sweet, and always leaving you wanting more.